The hip thrust is going to be your prime lower body exercise. It targets your glute max. Your glute maximus is your largest hip stabilizing muscle, and it needs to be strong so that you can prevent back and hip injuries. Of course, there's a lot of other movements that need to be done, but this is your prime movement, and that's why I have it first in this video. If your glute max is strong, you will probably avoid a lot of lower back and hip injuries. So just basic hip thrust exercise. I really want to posteriorly rotate my pelvis as I push my hips up to the ceiling. And of course, just start with body weight if you're new to this, or if it's your first set warming up, and then you can move to a loaded hip thrust afterwards. But again, as I push my hips to the ceiling, I just really squeeze my glutes without hyperextending my lower back. So again, you want to get that posterior pelvic tilt and squeeze your glute muscles. And of course, you could use a barbell with weights on it and a bar pad if you have that, but if not, no worries, it can still be done pretty easily. Okay, if you don't have weights or you don't have a bench or something that you can hinge off of, just do a single leg hip thrust just on the ground. So same concept, but I'm just loading one leg at a time. And again, I'm getting that posterior pelvic tilt, so I'm rolling my hips under and squeezing my glutes as I elevate myself off the ground, pushing through that single leg. Next exercise is the ATG Athletic Training Group split squat. So just a wide kind of lunge stance or split squat stance. I've heard it called both. This is great for the front leg knee, just to keep all those soft tissues healthy, to get that full knee flexion or as far forward as you can get. But it really, for me, is a focus on the back leg. It opens up my rear leg hip flexor, and you do that by one, taking a wide stance, keeping the back knee as straight as possible, and really flexing that back leg glute, and that will stretch out your hip flexor. It will also stretch your psoas, all your hip flexor muscles. Okay, so you will feel an intense stretch if you're doing this correctly in that back hip. And of course, just that full knee flexion in the front leg is great just for overall knee health. But really focus on the back leg. Again, you don't need to load this with weight, just do more reps if you don't even have weights, or maybe you're just at home and you don't have exercise equipment. You can just do more reps at body weight. But if you have been doing this for a while, or you do have significantly more strength, go ahead and hold weights, and you can hold it above you, you can hold it at your chest, you can just do that suitcase carry like I'm doing, hanging by the side, whatever works for you. But I just want to maintain the correct posture in that back leg. So don't ever let your back leg really bend. And if you're just beginning this exercise, you might notice that you can barely straighten that back leg knee. And that's an indication that yes, your hip flexors are extremely tight. So just by doing this exercise, you will actually loosen them, because you're making them work under load. So they're stretching under tension, and that is good. Next exercise, the Copenhagen plank. This is for your inner thigh, also called the adductors. Excellent exercise. This will keep your groin healthy. If you've experienced a lot of groin strains, this exercise will help prevent that. And there's tons of variations of it. So as you can see, I was doing like reps pulling my bottom leg knee to my upper leg, and there's rotational exercises. All of it's good, but what I want to explain, if you're new to this, you'll scoot in like that, okay? Because you don't want it to be super intense at first if you've never done this before, or if you have experienced a lot of groin strains because your adductors are weak. So I'm doing the more advanced versions by being really far away from what I'm anchoring my foot to. So you see now I'm doing a harder variation just because there's more stress on the muscles because I'm further away from my anchor point on the foot. So again, super important exercise to keep your groin and hips in general healthy. Clamshells are an excellent way to keep your medial glutes healthy. Easy exercise to do as well. I'm just keeping my knees together and I drop my hip to the ground, and as I elevate off the ground, I separate my knees. So stay lateral in this. Sometimes people have a tendency to rotate backwards too much so that they're like looking at the ceiling, or they're rotated toward the floor, like looking at the floor. So stay lateral in this exercise. Try to give you a different angle in this video so that you can see that my torso is just pointing laterally, like I would be looking straight ahead of me, not at the ground, not at the ceiling. So important distinction. Also make sure that the foot that is on the ground, of the leg that's on the ground, that foot stays on the ground as you extend away from the ground. Notice that my foot never leaves the ground. My bottom leg foot never leaves the ground. So I'm pushing my foot and my knee into the ground as I elevate my top leg away from me. Important distinctions. You will target your medial glute better if you do that. If your bottom leg foot is leaving the ground, you have different muscles working. You have more rotational hip muscles working rather than that medial glute. You want to target the medial glute specifically by keeping that foot and knee on the ground. And as you can see, there's variations. If you want to add more resistance, use resistance bands. Just use a dumbbell that you're holding above that top leg. So easy exercise to do, and increase the difficulty by just adding resistance to it. Okay, so these 90-90 heel clicks, it's just called the 90-90 because I have a 90-degree bend in each of my knees. This is an internal rotational exercise for your femur being the bone that sits inside of your pelvis. So your upper leg bone, that's your femur. And I need to be able to internally rotate, and you can see I lift my foot off the ground and then pull my whole leg off the ground, knee to the ground, foot to the ground, foot off the ground, heel to heel. So there's this internal rotational aspect to this exercise. This is a super important exercise to keep your hips, lower back, groin healthy. Those muscles that you're internally rotating attach in your femur and then into your pelvis. So they connect your femur to your pelvis. So if they become weak, the hips will get stiff and tight, and then injury will occur for sure. So pretty simple exercise to do. Just make sure you're following the movement pattern. Foot off the ground, knee off the ground, touch the heels, and then you reverse the movement by going knee to the ground, foot to the ground, foot off the ground, knee off the ground, heel to heel. So that we have that slight rotation. And don't worry about if it seems like you're not getting a lot of rotational ability out of this. Everyone has different levels of flexibility, and if you're new to this exercise, it might be extremely difficult. If it is, just lean a little bit further toward the ground in your upper body. Okay, so this femur rotation is essentially the same movement as that 90-90. I'm just in a different position on the ground, but it's the same concept. So you can do one leg at a time, or you can do both legs together. There's no right or wrong. And if you have tight hips, this will be difficult to do. This will be very difficult to do. I'm just kind of keeping my fist in between my knees as kind of a guiding point so that my feet aren't moving away from each other instead of rotating. And then again, here's another different body position. So just my hands and knees are on the ground, and I'm just internally rotating my femur. So I'm kind of pulling my feet towards my hands, I guess you would say. So just the femur rotation, any kind of femur rotation, either the 90-90 heel clicks or just on your back and internally rotating your femurs, or this kneeling position here, or hands and knees position. So it doesn't have to be anything specific. Just try one of these movements for your internal rotation, and whichever one feels like works the best for you, just do that. Okay, moving to our upper body, pull-ups. Pull-ups are one of the best ways to prevent shoulder injuries by having strong pulling muscles, lats, rhomboids, and just having strong rotator cuffs, that being mid and lower trapezius muscles and your external rotator cuffs. You'll prevent a lot of upper back and shoulder injury by just having a strong pull-up. There's two movements in a pull-up. First, there's scapula depression, and then there's the actual pull. So see how I depress my scapula or draw my shoulder blades down before I even start pulling. This is an extremely important movement for a pull-up. Also, I am not shrugging up as I pull. So your shoulder should be far away from your earlobes at the top of your pull-up. If you're shrugging, you're not executing the pull-up well and not targeting the correct muscles. So slow, controlled movement is way better. If you do not have a pull-up, just go to an active hang. And that means if you look at my neck, it's long. My neck is long. I'm not shrugged up. So I'm just actively depressing my scapula or pulling my shoulder blades downward, and I'm just hanging for as long as I can. Once you feel yourself shrug like that, it's over. Next exercise, I don't really consider this a shoulder exercise. It's a lateral overhead press, and I'm really trying to draw the weights backwards as much as possible. So yes, your shoulders or deltoids are working in this, but really not very much. You're not actually doing these to target your deltoids. This is going to help strengthen your upper mid traps, and rhomboids, which stabilize your scapula and keep your neck strong. So I really consider this exercise not a shoulder exercise, but an upper back and neck strengthening exercise. So targeting the rotator cuff muscles is extremely important. In martial arts in general, whether it's striking or grappling, your shoulders are rotating constantly. And so a good, strong external rotation movement is very important just to keep shoulder health. This will help prevent shoulder injury. And very simple to do, just any kind of a resistance band. And even if you don't have a resistance band, but you have maybe a couple light dumbbells, just hold the dumbbells in your hand and rotate them forwards and backwards. And so you see I'm keeping like a 90-degree angle in my elbow here. Yeah, and I'm not pulling the weight back from front to back. I'm just rotating my humerus muscle, which is that upper arm bone. I'm sorry, the humerus bone is just rotating inside of my shoulder socket. So again, I'm not really pulling backwards. Yes, there is backwards tension, but I'm rotating. Here's just another angle. So you can see that the arm is not really like, the elbow rather from the shoulder is not coming forward. I'm just rotating in the shoulder socket. So that's a good external rotation to keep those rotator cuffs healthy. Okay, moving into core exercises. Any kind of floor core exercise where you're targeting your abdominal muscles is just a variation of a hollow body hold. And a hollow body hold just means I'm flexing my abdominal muscles as much as possible, keeping that roundedness through my body. You do not want to feel an arch in your lower back. That means your abdominal muscles have disengaged and you're not actually executing the exercise correctly at that point. This is another core exercise. This is a little more advanced. You need the strength to be able to like hold yourself up on a bar to get enough repetitions to do these hanging tuck-ups. And also notice that I'm not swinging. I'm controlling the upward movement and the downward movement. So this is a more advanced core exercise, but probably the best core exercise you can do if you're already at that level. But if not, don't worry. You can always just do the hollow body hold and hold for as long as you can. And once you have the hollow body hold, you can just move to more advanced exercises on the ground. So that being the Thai crunch, but you could do Russian twists, right? But the whole point is to keep your abdominal muscles engaged in any one of these movements. Again, Russian twists work, flutter kicks work, scissor kicks work from that hollow body hold, but any kind of floor abdominal exercise is just a variation of a hollow body hold. All right, a back extension is probably going to be your most important lower back strengthening exercise. And also notice how slowly and controlled I'm moving up and down with this exercise. I'm also not coming so far up that I'm hyperextending my lumbar spine, which just puts an undue amount of stress on it. Just more importantly, notice the speed at which I'm doing this. I'm not trying to explosively come up, which would actually target your glutes more. I want to target my paraspinal muscles as much as possible, those being the muscles that support your vertebrae in your back, so your spine. And those vertebrae and all those muscles house your central nervous system. The bundle of nerves that stems from your brain and connects is the communication system between every single part of your body. So I'd say that keeping your back healthy is the most important thing you can do, not only as a martial artist, but just as a human being. Getting one of these back extension machines will be the best investment you can make for yourself to keep your back healthy. I think I bought that on Amazon for like $80 a few years ago. Best investment I've ever made. So if you don't have one of those back extension machines, you should still be keeping your back and entire posterior chain healthy. And this is a really easy way to do that. You don't need any equipment. I just call it the Cobra. But I'm just pulling my chest and my heels off the ground by squeezing my butt, my hamstring, and all of my back muscles. But when doing this exercise, really pay attention to my head position. I'm not pulling my chin away from the ground. So I'm just keeping my neck straight, but I'm flexing the rest of my posterior chain, back muscles, glutes, hamstrings. And you can just do repetitions. If you can't hold for very long, start with just repetitions. Hold for like 1 second at the top and then just slowly lower yourself down. Easy to do. All right, keeping your neck healthy is extremely important. So just rotational exercises and lateral flexion from different lying positions. And I'm on a bench here, but you can just do this on the ground. It was just easier for the video. So you don't even need a bench. You can just do this on the ground. Pull your chest away from the ground and then just start doing rotational and lateral flexion. Lateral flexion just means from side to side. And rotation is just, think about looking from over one shoulder to the other shoulder. So this lateral flexion is hard to do, but look at my chin position. Okay, my chin is not away from my neck. Okay, so I'm not pushing my chin away from me, but rather I'm keeping my chin tucked in closer to my neck. That is an important distinction to target all of the correct muscles. If your chin, or like imagine looking up to the sky, yeah, so your chin is away from your neck, that just puts a lot of compression on your neck vertebrae. So that is not the head position you want. So again, that lateral flexion right there. Just think about touching your ear to your shoulder, the same side ear to your shoulder in that lateral flexion. Again, you could be on your stomach. You could even do this from your back if you feel like you have a really weak neck. But I find that laying on my stomach or laying on each shoulder gives me the best neck exercise for this. Laying on your back is, you probably already have a lot of neck tension in the front due to modern living of looking at screens and computers and looking down all the time. You probably don't need to be laying on your back and doing this exercise. So lay on your stomach or lay on each side. It's good to get all these positions and just do rotation and lateral flexion from each position. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you out.